Well, let me greet you again, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you today. And I just feel that it's good. I've been speaking for several weeks now on the Acts of the Apostles, and I think it's good if I summarize something of this, because it is important. I personally believe that the church really commenced in the Acts of the Apostles with the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and that the Acts of the Apostles is really not just the story of the birth of the church, but how the church was formed. And I believe it's how the church should be today. I don't think it's changed. And it's very interesting. All my life, I've really believed that we should live as they taught in the Acts of the Apostles, that we should follow in the same direction. And this really is the power behind preaching, because, as you know, when I started preaching age 13, you've probably heard me tell the story that I complained to my father because nobody repented, and my father said, well, you've been baptized in water, but you've not been baptized in the Holy Spirit. And he said to me, you need the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And he said, Jesus taught us that when the Holy Spirit is come, he, that's not you, and my father was pointing to me, he said, he, the Holy Spirit, will convict the world of sin, of righteousness, and of coming judgment. And if you go back, as I could do quite easily, into the early chapters of the Acts of the Apostles, I mean, you start off actually that we believe it was written by Luke. That's what most of us assume. But what it deals with is the period after the resurrection, when Jesus appeared to his disciples, and then telling them he was taken into heaven. And then in the second chapter, they had to wait in Jerusalem until Pentecost. And it was after Pentecost everything changed. Peter is particular in this because, as we all know, Peter was the one who, at the trial, when Jesus was on trial, was approached by a servant girl, not an official. And the servant girl just said to Peter, I think I've seen you with this Jesus. And Peter denies any connection with Jesus, and denied him 3 times. And yet, when he received the Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost, Peter was the first one to climb up onto the roof of the building and preach, until 3,000 received Christ. So there's absolutely no question the power was in the Holy Spirit. And although the disciples followed Jesus and certainly did take part in some of the work that Jesus did during his ministry, when Jesus had gone, there was a panic. And Peter actually, again, before Pentecost, Peter is the one who turns to the other disciples and almost in despair is saying, Jesus has left us, this is the end. And in what to me are his famous words, Peter says, boys, I'm going back fishing. So that the first reaction, even after the resurrection, when they realized that Jesus was no longer there, simply goes back to the fishing. And the danger is that we have to realize that was not God's call on these men. And he also knew, Jesus knew, that they needed the power and the authority to do the job. And the Holy Spirit gave them the power and the authority. And today, I'm very conscious that not many people that I know speak as I do in saying that I have power and authority through the Holy Spirit, and I take and use that power and that authority. That's what makes my ministry different. I have authority. Why? Because I received the Pentecost experience myself. Yes, I was praying for some time, a year or two, after my father spoke to me before I finally received. But when I did receive, immediately it transformed my experience so much that, yes, I had to go to work for a short period in the city to get the money to go to college. But once I went into college, immediately everything opened up, and for reasons which I don't understand, after only 2 months, they asked me to pastor a church, and I was the only student who was actually pastoring a church the whole time I was in college. But how could I do it? I could do it because it was not what I was learning in Bible college, it was what I received from the Holy Spirit that gave me the power and the authority. And so I was seeing people receive the Holy Spirit in those early days, even though I was only a student. So I cannot overemphasize the fact that the more you look at the Acts of the Apostles, the more you see some simple things. One is that Pentecost was not a one-off experience, but that it happened to all the people who believed. I mean, when Paul went to, when Philip went to Samaria, he was saying to the believers there, have you received the Holy Spirit since you received? And they then received the Holy Spirit, and that's when the power of the Holy Spirit was so powerful that, as you know, that man came to Philip and said, look, I want to receive the Holy Spirit. I want to have the same gift that you have got of laying hands on people, because he saw that when Philip laid hands on the people, their lives were changed. They then saw the miracles, and Philip was so interested, saw so much the impact of this Holy Spirit, he was prepared to give money to receive this power. Of course he didn't. Philip had to rebuke him, saying, your money perish with you.